Oh, you put dog slobber all over it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about the new DJI RS2 gimbal. It's kind of like a bit of a review. I'm just going to be talking about it, but I'm also going to put the whole thing together. So I've already put it together once, but now I've packed everything up with only the parts that I need. So I kind of want to see how long it's going to take me to put it together, just for reference in the future when I need to plan how much extra time I'm going to need for preparation. So it took me a while the first time because I was trying to figure it all out, but now that I've kind of gotten used to how it works, I'm interested to see how long it will actually take. I'm going to be using the gimbal with the SONY A7 III, so everything I'm doing is geared towards this particular camera. So that's important really, because there are different cables that you need to use, different cables that come with the gimbal, and different ways of connecting. Believe it or not, I don't work at IKEA, it's just a shirt that looks something like what they'd wear. Okay, so I've got the Pro Combo here, and it's a fantastic combo because it comes with a lens focusing system where you can focus using the gimbal handle itself. It also has an image transmitter, so you can send your image from your camera to your phone, and then it uses that image to do active tracking through the gimbal as well, which is pretty cool. Well, we'll get to that. So let's open up what we have here. So this has already been packed up by me and repacked from the original setup. So I've only included things that I need. I've got a bunch of cables here, but I've gotten rid of all the excess ones that I don't really need to use. And then I've got the RavenEye Image Transmitter here. I've got the lens motor, and I have already partially assembled it because it's easier just to leave it like this for resetting it up, as opposed to having individual little bits that I have to connect with the Allen key and all that. So I've just kind of loosened up this little clamp here so I can fold it in, because usually the lens focusing mount, usually the focusing mount is out like that a bit, so I just loosen that to pack it up so it will fit back in the bag. We've got the focus ring extender here, which connects to the focus motor gear here. So you've got to wrap that around the lens to extend it so it will work with the teeth on the lens focusing thing. This is the briefcase handle as well, which I'm going to use. Got the battery grip here, tripod, phone holder, the phone holder. Also got the camera mounting plate here as well. So all of these things here are in the top compartment, and that's kind of how they come when you get it as well, when you get it straight from the factory. And then in this bag here I've just got, okay, so in the bottom compartment we've got the rest of the gimbal here. So I've still got the safety protections on, I don't know what you call these. I took that one off, which is protecting these two, what do you call these? Sensors? These two. So yeah, took this one off here, which is protecting these two sensors. I think that looks like it's pretty important. You wouldn't want anything to get in there and affect them. And then there's one on the bottom here, which is protecting the connector from the gimbal to the battery grip. So get this box out of the way for now. So we'll start off with the tripod. So it's pretty simple, obviously. Legs come out. We'll connect the battery grip. So it's got a piece of plexiglass on the bottom of the battery grip. I think the reason why it has that is because if you're filming in briefcase mode and you have to attach the tripod, you can't see where the where the thread is, so it can slide in and you can sort of feel where it is. So if you're taking the tripod off from briefcase mode to screwing it underneath, it makes it a lot easier. I think that's why the glass is there. So anyway, so put the legs down like that, and then we connect the gimbal to the battery grip. It's pretty simple, it just slots on like that. And then we've got a lock on here, which we have to flick to the lock position, which goes backwards like that. It doesn't go, the lock doesn't go all the way to the actual picture of the lock, which I realized if you try and force it, you're probably going to break it. So that is what holds it in place. That's enough to get it working. Right, so we'll connect the mobile phone holder. It's pretty simple. It just connects onto the sensor there, and just tighten it up. Don't need any tools. So what I tried to do is keep everything assembled that needs tools, so that you could do it with just using all the inbuilt clamps. And then connect the briefcase holder. Which goes on in the same way. Just loosen it like that. Clip it on. And then that's lovely. It's very nice and stuck on there. So that's that. So the RavenEye, I think it's probably a good idea to connect it now, because it goes underneath this part of the gimbal here. There's a slot there. So you have to have the antennas pointing out like that. And then you can see there's a hole underneath which it goes into, and then it slides down to stay in place. And then you bend the antennas out. And they have to go straight out, otherwise they're going to bump into the focus motor later on when you connect that. So that's how they go in. And that's easier, like when the gimbal's in this position, it's easier because you can see and get in there a lot easier than later on once it's unlocked, which is what we'll do now. So we just unlock everything because it's all locked up. So there's these little lock switches here for the tilt, pan and roll arms. So there's that one there, and then we'll lock that one back. And this one is loose, so we'll lock that one back as well. There we go. So now it's in its proper position. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll put that aside for now, I think, and we'll connect the focus motor up. So I had a bit of difficulty getting this working at first to get it to fit properly on the camera. So specifically for this lens and this camera, this is the best way of doing it. So you connect the camera riser, which is different to the normal base plate, which has the difference is it has screw holes where you can connect it using this piece to this rod here, which then connects to the focus motor, and then you can use the length of this to line it up with the focusing ring on your lens. But in order to get it to connect to the gear that's on the focus motor, you need to attach this, which is an extension on the focus ring. And the way that this connects is you just wrap it around like this to your lens. You've got to keep it tight, otherwise it'll slide around and it won't really work properly. So keep it tight on here, slide it in like that so that the teeth go into this clip. And then the idea is that once you kind of know what lens you're going to use, you can trim off this excess so it's not just hanging there like that. But for now I'm just going to leave it because I'm not sure what lens I'm going to use it on. I just want to make sure I don't leave myself with no options. And it still works like this, it just looks ugly basically. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to connect the base plate to the camera. So this is all the stuff that I've got pre-assembled, which makes it quicker to set up. So we'll just connect this on. And it comes with different screws to use for these plates. You have different options, and I just picked all the ones that have this little tab here, so you don't need to use tools. You can basically tighten up as far as it can go just by using your hands. So then your focus motor comes out like this, and you just adjust it until it lines up with the teeth on the lens, like that, and then you tighten it up. So then when you connect the focus motor using a USB-C cable to the gimbal, it will power this motor here, and what that will do is it will turn and then it will focus your lens for you. And you can get a separate accessory, which I don't have, which is a LiDAR 3D focus system, which can sit on the hot shoe mount on the top of the camera, and that will actually go through the gimbal, connect to the focus motor, and the dog is eating the backdrop in the background. Baxter, get away. So next I'm going to connect the camera mounting plate to the gimbal. So this is pretty cool how this is set up. So it has a little sort of gear strip underneath here. similar to the one that's on the lens mounting system. And you line that up with this little dial here, and what that allows you to do is move the mounting plate back and forward, so it's really a lot easier to balance that way as opposed to having to slide it manually. So that's how you know which way it has to go on. So the camera sits here, so it goes on here. You just have to flick the safety switch to allow it to pass that, and then once you connect to the gear, the dial, sorry, you can see it moves back and forward like that. So that's how that works, and then you lock it into place once you have the right position, and then you can mount your camera on top of that. So the camera slides across like this, and you lock it into place. So now we've got the camera mounted. So when we want to balance the camera, we can use this dial here. We have to have it unlocked though. That's really important to note. And then we can adjust the balancing using this dial. Right, so everything is put together, but we need to connect everything using the cables to make everything talk to each other. So that's the next step. So I've got only the cables that I need here. So I've got pretty much, they're all USB-C cables, and then there's an HDMI adapter and a SONY Mini to USB-C adapter, and they connect to different and they connect to different ports. So there's a safety cover here on the side. There's a safety cover here on the side, which is covering or protecting 3 ports, 3 USB-C ports, and they have their different respective things to connect to. So start off connecting the camera itself to talk to the gimbal. So we're going to need because it's a Sony camera, and it's really important that if you're shooting video that you make sure that you have your camera set to video mode, not manual focus mode or anything else, just set to video mode, because otherwise it won't talk to the gimbal properly. So that goes in this port on the side of the A7iii, and I'm sure it's the same for every other Sony camera. Into the multi-input here. And then I guess you have a little bit of creativity, room to move when you want to connect this, or how you want to thread this through the camera, but I just put it under the lens like this, and then I connect it to this little icon on the side of the camera here, which has a little camera icon at the top, USB-C port, as you can see here. There's a USB-C port, a little camera. So that's pretty straightforward. The camera is speaking to the gimbal, plug it into the camera port. So that's the camera is compatible with the gimbal. So now it's going to talk and feed information. All right, so now we're going to connect the RavenEye Image Transmitter to the gimbal and the camera. So we'll start off simple with the HDMI. So we need to connect this HDMI to USB-C cable. Plug that into the camera, into the mini HDMI on the side here. Plug it in, and then we connect that to the HDMI port on the RavenEye, which is here. So it's going to send a signal from the A7iii to the RavenEye Image Transmitter, and then that will send it to the phone with basically no latency, so you can effectively use your iPhone and with the DJI Ronin app as a monitor and a controller of the gimbal and camera. So it's quite a powerful tool, that. Yep, so next thing we want to do is connect the RavenEye to the gimbal. So we've got a port here for the image transmitter. So we connect that under here into this Thunderbolt port, and we connect it here to the corresponding port, which has a little Wi-Fi signal on it, so that's telling us that's the image transmitter. So we've got 2 more cables left. One of them is a USB to USB-C, so that's our charging cable, so put that aside. We've got a USB to USB-C cable, and there's only one thing left to connect, and that is our focusing motor. So we would need to connect that to the gimbal, and that's going to talk to our dial, which is on the front here, and that allows us to adjust that focus motor. So we're going to connect that into the second port. So now everything is connected. Then once we've got all the wires, all the camera, all the gimbal set up, we need to connect our app to the gimbal. So we put the phone on the phone holder. So that simply just slides out like that. And the great thing about this is you can adjust the orientation as well. You can tilt it down. Sometimes the gimbal bumps into the phone, so it's like you might have to move it to adjust for that. So we'll fire up the DJI app. Alright, so we're ready to connect everything. So we turn the gimbal on. There's a power switch on the side here, hold it down. So we've got fully charged battery, which you need to do before you even start using the gimbal. It needs to be fully charged. It comes with a flat battery as far as I know. Mine was flat. So we've turned the gimbal on, and then we also need to turn our RavenEye transmitter on as well. So I've done something wrong here. I've somehow set up this thing backwards. Standard orientation for the gimbal. Everything's turned on right now. So we've got to turn on our RavenEye transmitter as well. So there's a little power button here, like that. So now that's on. So now we're ready to connect everything to the app. The first time that I connected the RavenEye and the gimbal to the app, it was really weird. There was like a conflict between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and I had to follow some steps, and I can't really remember exactly how that worked, but now it seems to work seamlessly. So it's even automatically just connected, which is really good, even though our camera's off. We don't have anything feeding through, but once I turn the camera on, we'll start to see an image. Got the lens cap on, so that's why everything's black. Okay. Alright, there we go. So there's basically no latency, which is pretty amazing, really. Crank up the ISO so we can actually see something. So, another thing to note is the focus motor. When I first hooked it up, it didn't work when I turned the dial straight away. There was something not communicating with it, so I had to go into the menu and adjust my dial switch. So you swipe up on the touch screen, and then in the bottom left-hand corner, you got a little option. You can select what you're going to use the focusing dial for. So I turned it on to focus motor, and then now it works. So if you can see here on the front there, where we got our ring connected. When we turn the dial at the front here, we get smooth focus like that. Yeah, so everything's up and running. We've got our focus motor, which is working reasonably fine. I think I might have to make a few adjustments to it. Wait, no, I won't say that. We've got our focus motor working. We've got RavenEye sending a signal to our app, which is working fine. So overall, it's a pretty awesome setup when you get it to this point, because you can control everything with one hand. You have a trigger at the front here, which you can adjust the different settings. So you can do your active tracking. So if I press the trigger once, it enables active tracking. So say for example, I don't know if you can quite see, but if I put my hand in front of the frame and I draw over my hand in the app, and it knows what to focus on. So if you have an autofocus lens, it will track the focus, or if you have the 3D focus module, which I don't have, that will also do it. But then you just use the dial on the front here to focus using the focus motor. So you can turn your focus peaking on in the app here, which helps with that when you're in manual focus mode. And so the great thing is with the app, with the auto tracking, so I can say I want to track where my hand's going. I just draw a square around my hand, and then wherever I move my hand, the camera is going to follow. And you can adjust all the parameters, so you can have fast tracking, slow tracking. And I've played around with this, and it's really, especially if you're using a manual focus lens. So you've got your focus ring, your focus motor set up here, but you can just focus on holding the gimbal and focusing, and this will worry about actually moving the gimbal head around without you having to use the joystick. So it's one less thing you have to worry about when you're filming by yourself. So it makes life a lot easier. And then if you want to cancel the focus tracking, you just press the X on that. So it's really easy to use. So this is my assembly and sort of a review of the DJI RS2 gimbal. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I guess I'll see you on the next one.